Is that my boy Best Jeanist at the beginning of this chapter of My Hero Academia? I mean, who am I kidding? We all know it's Best Jeanist. Who else could it really be? I mean, we have literally the dialogue saying that, oh, you're still injured and all that, you need to sit down. We have the man's like, I need to be able to get over there, it doesn't matter, I need to get there, people are dying. It just like, it all kind of fits together. It would make sense for Best Jeanist to pop up right now because it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. Hawk's already initiated the operation. The villains have, come out of hiding. Best Jeanist doesn't really need to act like, he is dead anymore. He could come out and really start beginning the fight. And potentially even hold back Gigon, which I'll talk more about that in a moment. But anyways, let's talk about the main meat of what this chapter is about, and that is Toga and Ochako. Now, these two characters have been intertwined for a very long time. Ever since, like, the villain invasion arc, when you had the villains attack the entire class in the forest, and then they, took Bakugo away, and then we had the whole All Might versus All for One scene. Ever since then, Ochako and Toga have had kind of like a connection, and even Suyu as well. There's always been that weird connection between the characters, and we know when the two characters first encountered each other a long time ago, you had it to where Ochako was very scared. She wasn't really able to hold her own against, Toga. Toga really, kind of was showing that she was more powerful, she knew how to maneuver around, and she took a really good, I guess, fascination, a nice attachment to Ochako, and she wanted to know more about her. But obviously the fight was postponed a very long time ago. Now we fast forward to where we're at right now, and it's kind of like a continuation of what happened many chapters ago, like over 100 plus chapters ago. We have a continuation of that fight. And honestly, the exact same circumstances, it looks very similar. I mean, in terms of Ochako being kind of pushed back and all that, a knife coming for her, it looks very similar. It's very obvious that that's kind of what Horikoshi Sensei is trying to kind of point at. Like, yeah, this is a continuation of that fight. But the message here is very different. This is after hundreds of chapters, or 100 plus chapters of character growth for both sides of these characters. We've seen Ochako improve as a hero, really demonstrate that it's more than just wanting to, get her license to be able to help her family out. She actually wants to be a hero now. She shows and demonstrates that she's getting the qualifications for a hero, especially after what she did for Izuku 50 plus chapters ago. She, saved him when he was having his court go out of control and all that with Black Whip. She intervened and was able to actually be the one to save him. In this case, you see that Ochako has definitely developed. She has gotten a lot better. She's even on the front lines technically right now, dealing with the situation with Gigon and trying to save people and get them out of danger. Now we also have Toga. Toga has developed as well. She has matured as a villain. At first, when we encountered her as a character, she was very crazy, she was nuts, unhinged, and as the story progressed, we eventually found out why she's so unhinged, she's nuts, why she's kind of a part of, the villain, squad, the League of Villains, or in this case, the Paranormal Liberation Front. We now know all of the reasons why she's there, and kind of how she works, what her mental state is really like, and what she's currently going through right now. Toga has never been sane. But in terms of these recent arcs, what it's really tried to show is that her character and most of all the characters in the league are irredeemable. Twice is a good example of this. The whole reason why he had to be stopped by Hawks was because he was someone that regardless, you couldn't talk to him. There was nothing you do. Hawks gave him many opportunities to back down and potentially just, get reformed or whatever, but Twice wasn't going to do that, which he had to be stopped. He was irredeemable. He was a monster that needed to be stopped. There was no other way but besides ending him right then and there. Hawks had to actually do that. He didn't want to, but he had to. And so we know that this type of mentality extends to all the others, not just Twice. It extends to Toga, it extends to Spinner, it extends to Shigaraki, it, extends to Dabi, obviously. I mean, all these characters are irredeemable. They might be put in prison, they might change somewhat, but they're probably always going to be villains at the end of the day. They're never going to be on the side of justice or good, etc. They're always going to be villains at their very core. And so we know Toga she is coming up to Ochako because she's like, I've been going through a lot of problems right now, and I'm grieving. I have had someone that's very close to me, someone that I love technically as a family member, die, and now I'm wondering if, like, all of us are just expendable. Does heroes actually view us as nothing more than things that can be thrown away? Are we truly worse than human beings? Are we not even supposed to be in the society? Is heroes literally telling us, instead of just, trying to reform us or trying to help us out, they're actually legitimately excluding us from people that need to be saved and that we need to be executed on the spot? That's kind of what, Toga's going through. And after seeing what happened with Twice, that's reaffirmed it. She's like, wow, I already felt like we were outcast. We all did. But now seeing that, Twice got killed, do we deserve to even live? Do this whole world thinks that we should actually die right here and now? But it goes a little bit deeper than that. Toga also, she is someone that wants to know exactly if heroes are just like villains, because she knows that deep down villains, they'll kill anyone in their way. If they're in their way of their goal objective, they'll get rid of them. But she wants to know if there really is a difference between heroes and villains. Are they the same? Will they both sides? Will they kill someone if they need to be able to save the day or do what they want? And that's kind of what she's trying to figure out. Is Hawks a bad hero? And is Ochako and Izuku a good hero? That's the best way to kind of summarize that. That's why she is currently wanting to talk with both of the characters, Izuku and Ochako, is to find out if that's how all heroes are, or if it's just exclusively Hawks, or a certain select few that are not necessarily supposed to be, a actual hero. And this kind of goes along with the Stain mentality and kind of why Ochako probably even took a fascination to join the League of Villains in the first place, even though it was all about blood and beat up, etc. We do know that she got interested in joining Shigaraki's cause thanks to Stain, so it does fit with the mentality of what's a good hero, what's a bad hero. But anyways, backing up for a second, the point is that Toga's asking a very honest question. We know for a fact what she's asking is very truthful. It fits the core fundamentals and themes of what the League has been building up for a very long time, what Horikoshi as a writer has been building up for a very long time, about just what the League represents, etc. Outcasts have been continuously pushed down and swept under the rug, and eventually that garbage finally starts to stink, and you just no longer can ignore it anymore. It just, seeps out of the ground, and eventually, it's fighting back for its own survival. And that's kind of what's happening here. We know that's what this entire arc kind of represents, what's been happening. She's thinking of very important human philosophy in a way. She isn't necessarily the most important thing in Ochako's mind, and that's probably why the expression of Toga turned very sour at the end of this chapter, why she got very serious and angry, was because she went out of her way to jump off of Gigon, put herself in harm's way, just to be able to meet Ochako, make all this time, go out of her way to steal an old woman's blood, just to be able to turn into an old woman, to lead Ochako away from everyone else, so she can have this personal heart-to-heart conversation. In her mind, she's like, you're very important to me. I want to have an honest conversation with you. She doesn't have empathy for others, or she's not able to understand other people's perspectives. She doesn't clearly understand, what Ochako is seeing from her. When Ochako encounters Toga in this chapter, Toga literally forces herself on top of Ochako, pins her down at knife point, and is like, hey, what do you want to do to me? And it's just like she's smiling all deviously. She's just holding you with down with a knife. It's just like, when you see someone like that, you don't see a sane individual that's normally someone you can have a conversation with. But obviously, Toga thinks this is the normal way of doing things. It's because she has been, she lacks social cues. She hasn't been, obviously, properly taught at a young age social cues or how to interact with people, or to be able to even, have empathy for others or understand their perspective. And so when you see how she acts towards, Ochako, it's understandable why Ochako got very upset. She's like, really? You drag me out here, you potentially kill an old woman, steal her blood, just to turn into her, to drag me over here, just to say, what do you want to do with me? After everything that's going on right now, you have a big monster rampaging through city after city. Countless people are dying left and right. You have debris flying all over the place, crushing buildings that are not even in the rampaging path of this monster. And you expect me to give you a human philosophy question. Obviously, Ochako doesn't know the real reason why Toga's there. Toga didn't even explain, didn't even try to explain and make it understandable to Ochako by any means. And I feel like this will be dived into more in the next chapter, because I highly doubt this is the end of the conversation. I just feel like, Toga's probably upset that, Ochako's just not devoting her entire attention to Toga. I think that is the reason why she's so angry. It's not the fact that she got an answer that she didn't like. Well, she did get an answer she didn't like, but it wasn't an answer to really say, I'm done with you. It's more of like, instead of insulting me, you should focus on me too, not just, me focusing on you. It should be an equal 50-50. We should both give and take, basically. And, Ochako is not returning that love back to Toga. So, I mean, we know why Ochako said what she said. It's understandable. But when we look at Toga's position, we know why she's doing that. She hasn't been taught social cues. She doesn't know how to properly interact with people. She doesn't know how she is viewed by people in terms of holding someone with a knife literally at their throat, trying to ask a question. It's just like, what? Like, yeah. But anyways, getting out of the symbolic nature and the philosophy of what's going on there, I do want to mention the fact that we have to remember Ochako has also evolved in terms of fighting. She knows gunhead martial arts now. She knows actually how to use fighting techniques, close and personal, physical attacks and techniques to overpower her opponent when someone gets too close. And judging by her position with Toga being there, I definitely see that Ochako is probably going to either flip Toga over her head or completely rotate her around and pin her up against the ground. I definitely see something like that happening because we do know that Ochako has been training in that type of combat. It's not just her quirk that she's been improving on. She's been improving on her physical fighting capabilities, which is something very important, especially after her last encounter with Toga. She needs something like that because there'll be villains that get up very close and she's not going to be able to really utilize her quirk as good as she possibly can. So we're probably going to see the actual real fight and the whole message between the characters truly starting in the next chapter of My Hero Academia, unless we shift over to whatever's going with Shigaraki. But I have a feeling that we're probably going to get a continuation of what's going on with Ochako and probably Best Jeanist before we really shift over to the end game of this arc. But okay. Anyways, let's actually talk about something that is very emotional in a way, which kind of goes along with Toga's mentality and, how they're outcast, etc. I like Spinner. Spinner in this chapter really impressed me. I've really grown fond of his character since we had the whole Villain Academia arc. Ever since we got to see a little bit of his narration and how he felt about the League, and then him standing up to Shigaraki saying, what are we doing, where are we going, etc. Ever since that happened and he admitted that he's a bandwagoner and all these little things are a cosplayer of Stain, but eventually he's taken a liking to, Shigaraki and the group, and he's doing things his own way even if he is a bandwagoner. I really like Spinner. He's a really good character. You can understand him. He feels very human, and honestly, he's relatable. He might not be the most powerful villain a part of the League, but he is a very relatable character. He just wants to feel like he belongs, etc. Bandwagon. And seeing what he said to Toga is something very powerful because it matters a lot to him. He's like, look, Toga, as villains and as our group, we can do whatever we want. That's the whole mentality of what Shigaraki kind of let us know, is that no matter what, he told us to do what we enjoy, what we want to do. He's not going to take away our freedoms. He's not going to shove us down and say you can't do so-and-so. He wants us to do what we want to do. You're not obligated to always do something, because, he says it. You need to do what you want to do, what your ideals are, be free, etc. And he's like, regardless, though, even though we have this mentality, it's very apparent to Shigaraki, many of us are part of this group, we want to see you there. When we arrive and all that, we want to see you. We want to see you return a part of the group again, and we care for you. So just remember, you can do what you want, but please return back safely. And it's a very interesting moment, because it just shows, once again, the connection Spinner has to all the characters, but how the League really is a family. We've known this for a very long time. We've known the League really does care for each other. It's been very clear for so long now, but just seeing Spinner say those words, and then Toga turning around and just smiling at him, that's enough context with the relationship between the characters and how they really do feel like family. They care about each other so much, and Spinner actually making it very clear to Toga, like, look, Toga, I know you're grieving. I know you're grieving about what happened to Twice. It's sad, and I understand why you're upset. But look, it's not just you grieving. We're all grieving here. Mr. Compress, I am. Shigaraki's definitely going to grieve when he finds out. Obviously Dabi's not grieving. We know how that man is. But, he's like, look, Toga, we are all grieving in our own way, and we understand, but at the very least, please return to us. We don't want to lose another one. It's a very shonen moment, honestly. Like, normally when you have an element like this happening within one of these type of stories, it's usually the main male character or main female character that is on the good side. Usually you have, like, the main cast or whatever. You have the main male character is like, hey, you know, return. I want to see you return back alive and all that. That's usually what you see the main characters of a story on the side of good say to one of their friends. But in this case, it's the villain saying it to another villain. And this kind of goes along with the main core themes that Horikoshi's been doing for a very long time. Kind of spinning, you know, the narrative of the normal shonen cliches that would normally go to heroes, and is putting them on the villains. It does make me concerned, though, for Toga, because, I mean, we have seen cliches work out for the villains, yes, but I do feel like that is very ominous, that maybe because of what's going on and how Toga's so driven by what she wants to know, that she might actually be captured or maybe even actually put to rest, put to an end. Who really knows? But I do think that that was a very ominous message, and it can go either way. Either Toga's gonna, you know, really be done with Ochako and just completely end her right then and there. And honestly, at this point, when we think about everything that this arc has shown us, no character is safe. Anybody really can die or end up really injured within this arc. So, for all we know, Ochako could end up dead at the end of this. Honestly, and that would be crazy because that would really drive Izuku's mentality even more, losing someone that's so close to him. You could definitely see that kind of driving him over the edge, but we have to see if, you know, Horikoshi's willing to commit to something like that. But he has done some crazy stuff already in this arc. The body count is ridiculous, which, by the way, let's talk about that before I kind of start to wrap up this video. So, the body count of Gigon is astronomical. Like, it's ridiculous. I dare say the body count of Gigon is higher than what Shigaraki has done in this arc. Like, Shigaraki wiped out pretty much an entire city with his decay, but I don't even think that is anything in comparison to what Gigon is doing. Gigon is literally bulldozing like a mole, just chipping away at buildings straight in front of him, going like 100 miles an hour or whatever, kilometers an hour, and all this debris that he's just shaking up is just flying all over the place, and it's damaging things that are not even in the straight path of his. So even the people on the outskirts of the city is getting hit by rubble, buildings, etc. It's very dangerous, and just looking how he's mowing everything down, and he's already went through multiple cities, and he's going to be going through dozens of cities, it's just like his death count is definitely higher than anything that Shigaraki has done. I will definitely say it right now. I will die on that hill and say he definitely has a higher body count right now. There's just no way that there's any comparison between Shigaraki and Gigon in terms of what we've already witnessed so far. Which, by the way, another thing I do want to mention, though, is Best Jeanist. Since we technically know Best Jeanist is returning, is he actually going to try to stop Gigon? If he does, I could definitely see him doing something. I mean, he does have his, you know, clothes strings, how he's able to use strings and stuff to be able to stop people. I do wonder if he's actually capable and powerful enough to actually be able to stop Gigon. I am very curious about that. I don't really know. It's because it's up in the air at this point if, you know, who can really stop that man's bulldozing capabilities when he's truly serious, and if anyone gets in his way, he will shift over to an aggressive attack mode to get rid of someone that's in his way. Look what he did to the heroes back at the mansion. So, just looking at every little detail, I don't really know if Best Jeanist can do anything. I mean, I want the man to do something. He's a cool character. I love him. But the question is, can he actually do anything? Can he actually stop Gigon? Or even stall him long enough for Shigaraki to be put out of commission? We'll find out. But I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below because it really does help me out a lot if you want to get notified whenever I do upload a new video on a daily or every few days. But I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.